Oh, let me take that banner down. Sorry.
That's
Uh,
okay.
okay, I'm
That's
a
good.
little nervous. I'm a little nervous.
That's a good intro, by the way. I like it. I got to step my game up.
Well, thank you for coming, man. I'm super honored. This is Big Reptile Talk, man. The channel where I pretty much just hang out in my reptile room and hang out with dope people in the hobby, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Before we even start, man, we're gonna have fun. But before we start, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's life is interesting right now. I mean, there's a lot going on, and um, you know, it's an interesting time because, like, in one way, I'm laser focused, in another way, I'm not even sure exactly what tomorrow's going to bring, which is kind of interesting. It's a spot that I don't normally get myself into too much, but there's so much up in the air. As I know, I'm all about visionary. I'm a visionary, and I'm always planning, and I have a lot of balls in the air right now. I'm juggling a lot of balls in the air right now, but it's a good thing, and life is good, man. Life is good.
I love that answer. Now, we were backstage and I was just giving your wife kudos, and she's freaking amazing. I wanted to, jump right into it and ask you, if anybody knows your story, everybody knows Lori. When you introduced her to reptiles, she really didn't like animals. What was the first animal that you were like, babe, it's not that bad. Here you go, touch it. Do you remember?
No, that's funny that you say that. I remember she really liked Russian rat snakes. I'm not sure that was the first snake that she like really got into or whatever, but I remember she liked Russian rat snakes, and I remember her having an affinity to them when we were first getting together. And I had a room. I'm sure she probably told you this. I had a room in my mom's basement at the time that was full of reptiles. When she first came, she would like stand in the doorway, not even walk in the door, and so I can't really remember what really won her over to getting in the room, and then ultimately maybe seeing the first snake that she was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But I remember the Russian rat snakes, but I did make a mistake that I only made once. And it was I can't remember what the situation was. We were celebrating. It was whether it was, I think it might have been Valentine's Day, and I bought her a baby Russian rat snake, and that was the last time I ever bought Lori a snake for any event. So as much as she liked the Russian rat snakes, she didn't want one for Valentine's Day. I can promise you that.
I love that. Now we know that you're a legend in the game, and a lot of people want to know what was the first animal that started it for you, like that
Yeah.
somebody put in your hands and he was like, okay, I like this, I'm gonna keep going.
Well, it's interesting. I've told people that I'm blessed with a really good memory, right? So I can remember before I was 2 years old. So since I was about 1.5 years old, I can remember pretty much mostly everything, and which can be a little bit daunting at times to have that memory. But I'm very blessed to have those early memories. And I remember I was under 2 years old at the time my mom told me the story of when this happened. I was under 2 years old, and we went to the Belle Isle Aquarium in the city of Detroit. And there was actually a ball python in a cage. So I didn't touch it. It was just in a cage. But still, I'm 51 years old, about to be 52 in September. And I can still remember that cage. I can remember the shape of the snake and the pattern. And I can even remember like the smell of the aquarium, and the feeling that I got when I saw that snake. And that was like, the first experience I had with a reptile when I was under two. And then, fast forward maybe 2 or 3 years when I was 4 or 5, we had some woods by my house. And again, I didn't know one person that liked reptiles, not my family, even my family. We didn't even have a dog or cat, I mean, we had no pets at all. So it wasn't like, I had an uncle or a friend or this, I mean, nobody. Right. But I would go in those woods, and I remember I'd catch snakes all the time, just garter snakes. Most of them were Butler's garter snakes. Some were Eastern garter snakes. But I used to spend every summer catching garter snakes, and I was obsessed with them from the day, I mean, obviously like dinosaurs are really a big thing for me as well. But, so I was really obsessed with dinosaurs and reptiles, but no one taught me it. No one showed me it. I never went to a place that had them. I never had, it was really, I mean, the first snake I ever touched was out in the wild. And that was what, I was just obsessed ever since. That passion has never waned. As a matter of fact, as I got older, and still to this day, I probably am more passionate about reptiles than I've ever been my entire life.
I I love that. I love that. Now, just how does that feel to be living your dream, be able to wake up and be around reptiles all day, go home and wake up and just do it again?
You know, I never take it for granted. You know, honestly, it's very humbling to uh, do something you love. And you know, obviously, I know Noah. You talked with Noah, and he's wanting to do comedy now, and that's something he's really passionate about. The thing that I had that so many teenagers and early 20s really struggle with, and some people much later into life struggle with what they want to do, right? They wake up every morning and they go, I don't know, I'm doing this job, I'm not really into it, I want to do this. That was one thing I never didn't have. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I knew one thing. I wanted to work with animals, in particular reptiles, period. That was it, you know? So like there was never a moment where I didn't have that direction in life. Like, I don't know what it means. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I'm going to work with reptiles. And I didn't know if that was going to be a zookeeper or a veterinarian or a biologist, because that's what I started, you know, going to college for, was biology, microbiology in particular. And, and I thought that one way or another, and then the breeding game wasn't even a game back then, right? You know, no one was doing it for a living. Everyone was just a hobbyist and stuff like that. So, so I don't take it for granted that, you know, I've been able to always know what I wanted to do and then actually achieve that, you know. And listen, you know, over the last 34 years, whatever it's been, there's been a lot of iterations of who I am, right? You know, I mean, from being just a breeder. At one point, I probably had top 5, top 6 collections in the world as far as numbers go. And yet no one even knew who I was, because I was quiet. I didn't talk. I didn't, you know, advertise. I didn't do it. I wholesaled almost all my, so it's really weird to go from a guy that was basically like, if you would ask back then when the reptile hobby was just really starting to explode, if you would ask, you know, the normal person that went to, say, a reptile show, the early reptile shows, and you said, hey, what do you think the top 25 guys are in reptiles? I was a young guy at the time, but I had probably the 5th or 6th largest collection. I probably wouldn't have been in the top 30 thing. You know, probably 30 people would have been by before my name came up, even though I was maybe in the top 5 or 6. So I was like really behind the scenes, and I enjoyed being quietly just working with my animals, leave me alone, stuff like that. And then to go the opposite way and be, you know, so, you know, visible in the eyes. I mean, it's a weird iteration, and quite frankly, the thing that people probably would be surprised to hear is that it's not naturally comfortable for me to be in this position, right? I mean, my real comfort zone is to be in the background with no one knowing what I'm doing and me just doing my own thing, you know. But I'm not complaining. I love what I've done, and it's been an interesting life. And I've learned to really love social media and being in the limelight of all that. It's something I'm very passionate about, obviously. But yeah, you know, no, it's a great thing to wake up in the morning and love what you do.
Right. Now, this is to inspire me and other people. And I'll tell you what I did. You know, I'm in nursing now, but before I got into nursing, you know, I was retail, fast food, stuff
Yeah.
like that. I want to know, what was Barczyk doing pre-Reptarium life?
So, you know, really, I've only had, I mean, I've had a couple jobs in my life, you know, a few jobs, like, you know, like I worked at Wendy's for 2 days. I did work at Burger King when I was 15 for about 3 months. And then I worked at a pet shop from when I was 15 to when I was about 21. And I worked at this pet shop. Ultimately, we had a pet shop named Pet Vendor, and then they opened up a second Pet Vendor 2, of course, and that ultimately turned into a Best Pets. And I ran that till I was 20, almost 21. And then we actually had, Lori and myself had our daughter, Jade, who, by the way, she just announced today. We've known for a little while, but she announced today publicly that we're going to be grandparents for the first time. So that's pretty cool. But when we had my daughter, you know, the realization, I was already building at that time. I had a pretty sizable collection of reptiles. I had bought my first house, you know, right around then, and we had the whole basement of the house filled with reptiles, and we were doing reptile shows and everything. But I thought to myself, like, what if this doesn't work? You know, what if the reptile thing doesn't work? You know, I wanted it to work. This is what I wanted to do, but you got to remember, the reptile hobby was in the very, very infancy. And so I went to work as an apprentice CNC machinist. And for almost 5 years, I worked in a steel place, milling steel. running CNC computer numerical controlled machines, ultimately became the head programmer of that department before I quit. Worst 5 years of my life. Not going to lie to you. I worked minimum 50 to 60 hours a week at the steel place, which I hated every minute of. Hated it. Made great money, but hated every minute of it. And then I would come home and work with Reptiles for another 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. So I had no life. And what happened was my daughter was under a year old or so when I went to work at this place, because I wanted just a backup in case something didn't work out. And when she went to kindergarten, I realized I had missed the entire first 5 years of her life because I was just working. And I was like, this is it. And I quit my job and I went to work full time as Reptiles and been full time ever since. And after I quit, I remember saying, well, I did that as a backup. And now if I ever needed that backup, I'd never go back to it because I hated it so damn much. It sucks the life out of you. And it's not a disparaging thing. Some people love that life, and that's great. If you do, God bless you, I personally couldn't handle it. I would never go back to doing it. So, but yeah, those are the only jobs I had a paper route when I was like 9, 10 years old. For 4 or 5 years. So, but that was all I ever did. Realistically, I had, 3 jobs or whatever, I guess 4 jobs in the paper route before becoming a professional reptile breeder.
I love that answer. Now, we know you have 3 million plus subscribers. So this is kind of like a 2-part question. Yeah. I know you get, I think, a plaque at like 1 million, but I don't want to talk about the 1 million plaque. Yeah. I want to talk about what was going through your mind when you got that plaque at 100,000 subscribers. And the second, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, go for it. Second.
The second part of the question is, so the first part was, what was going through your mind when you got that 100,000 plaque? And how does it feel having 3 million eyes on you?
Well, so I think the 100,000 was really special. You got to remember my first 100,000 plaque came from Snakebites TV, which was my first channel. And that came, it took a while. Like that channel didn't blow up. That was like just this like incline of like, every day we'd add 100, 200 subscribers, whatever the case may be. And it took, a number of years to get to 100,000. And I remember even once I hit 100,000, it was like almost a year later before they gave me the plaque, which was weird. Right. And even now, even though I haven't posted on that channel in a long time, we did reach 800,000 subscribers on that channel. And I think it's been 2 years since I posted a video, and I think I've maybe posted 6 videos in the last 5 years on that channel. So it's kind of a dead channel, which is a bummer because I'd love to get that channel to 1 million as well. But there's no doubt that the 100,000 in the vlog channel was way more special because it happened so much faster, and it was it was life changing the way the vlog was going. Like Snakebites, I did it for 8 years before I started vlogging, 8.5 years before I started vlogging. And I never made any money at all. Like every dollar I made would just go to kind of, either buying a new camera or paying an editor or whatever. I never took a dollar. Right. And then the vlog channel came around and it was like life changing because now it's like, all the different income streams that come from social and blowing up and the 100,000 happened. I remember we were like vlogging it started 1 day a week. Then we went to 3 days a week. Then we went to 5 days a week. And it was on Thanksgiving, my first video went viral on the vlog channel. And it was actually when Lucy, my 18-foot python, escaped. And that video went viral and it got, like 1.5 million views in 2 days. And then 2 days later, she laid a clutch of eggs that I didn't even know she was gravid because I didn't breed her. So it was an infertile clutch of eggs. And so I took the infertile clutch of eggs away from her. And that video went viral and got like 1.7 million views in 24 hours. And I went from like 20,000 subscribers. And I think in 10 days, we were at over 200,000 subscribers. And so it happened quick. And then I did get that plaque relatively soon. I think within, a week or two of me getting that, they sent me the plaque. So the 100,000 was really, really important. But I will say, I know we're going to discount that 1 million plaque, but that one was, Lori and I were in Mexico, in Cancun, actually in Riviera Maya. And when we got the 1 million, and that was, I think it didn't even really set in until we were at like 950,000, and at that time I was getting, I mean, what happens when you reach milestones, like same thing happened when we were at 2 million, 3 million, was like it accelerates at the end, like that last like 20,000 happens quicker. It's almost like people say, oh my gosh, he's almost there, I'm going to subscribe to get him there. It's a weird thing. I don't know how it is. So I remember like we went to Riviera Maya and we had like 960,000. And in like 3 days, we were at 997,000. And then we actually went out for dinner and we were like 1,500 subscribers away. And at the time you could reel count. Well, now you can reel count again. They took that away for a while. But there used to be something called social. Well, there's still a Social Blade where you could follow it. Now on YouTube, you can live count, see your subscriber count. But they had that taken away for about a year or so. But so we were like 1,500 away, and we went to dinner. And I had Social Blade on my phone. I had it on my phone. And I remember we were at dinner and we were eating and stuff like that. And we were at, this is like a resort, so it was just a cart ride back to our villa. And I remember looking at our phone at the end of dinner, and we were like 200 away. We had gained like 1,300 over dinner. And I was like, oh my God, we got to get back. And we rushed back and we got back and we were like 50 away, and we were able to watch it click over to 1 million. And I remember that being, I mean, that's certainly the most special. I would say the 1 million was special and 3 million was special. 2 million was special too. Don't get me wrong. But the reason why the 3 million was almost as special as the 4 million or the 1 million was that I didn't do any collabs during that from 2 to 3 million. So really the 1 million, I had done a bunch of collabs. I collabed with Logan Paul and Jake Paul and FaZe Clan and Alex Wasabi and Java Juice Roy and all these guys that helped me get to 1 million through the collaborations. And then the 2 million from 1 million to 2 million, I did a lot of collaborations with David Dobrik. And, obviously I was, doing a lot with David at the time, and that was really helping the channel out a lot. From 2 to 3 million, we did no collabs at all, like none, zero. And so it was all like our content organically. And that's why that one was really special to me. But I think that, listen, it's always going to be humbling. No matter how many people watch, whether it's 50 people or 50,000 people, I mean, just to think that people would want to take their time out of their day to spend time with you I always tell people that success does one of two things to people. It either makes them arrogant or humble. And by far, my humility is tenfold what it was, years ago.
I love that. So when you got to those certain milestones, you was with her and y'all actually watched it like a New Year's countdown. You was like, we about to hit that million. We about to hit that million. And then you hit it.
Yeah, we're so lucky when they brought back the live count for the 3 million, because for most of the time between 2 and 3 million, there was no live count. It was only every 10,000 it would go up, right? When you hit 10,000, it would click over to 10,000. So probably about a month and a half, 2 months before we hit 3 million, YouTube brought back the live count, and we were able to click over to 3 million as well. And we did that. I think we did it live on the podcast, as a matter of fact. To hit the 3 million. So it was cool. But again, it's very humbling, but at the same time, I take a tremendous amount of responsibility with that, audience. And I appreciate every single person. And I work harder now to try not to disappoint than I used to, because we've all made mistakes in the past, and I've always lived up to those mistakes, and I don't erase them. I don't delete videos. If there's something that is ugly, then I leave it there, and I think that, it shows growth, and some people will use that against you, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it as like, hey, I've grown. The way I keep animals today compared to the way I kept animals 10 years ago is night and day, night and day. And if people can't appreciate that growth, then I don't really care.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that answer. Now, I want to give you a video idea, and I want to see what you think about it.
Let's go.
Now, I told this to Lori, and I don't want to let you know about it too. I feel like you should do a video, a vlog, like a snake sell-off competition, because you're a breeder, you sell snakes. I would like to see you call up Jay or call up Nerd or call up Kabelka or Ozzy Boys and say, hey, this is a video. We're going to be on the phones. We're going to be pounding, trying to sell snakes. If you sell 100 snakes, if you can outsell us, we'll buy your team lobster. But if we outsell you, you got to buy us steaks.
It certainly sounds like a reality show. You know, the downside is that I don't sell snakes. So that's the downside. I would be bad at this game because I have nothing to do with the sales side of the business at all. You'll find this interesting, honestly, is that I've never enjoyed selling snakes ever in my entire career. You know, I like getting snakes to people that enjoy them and grow their passion for it. But the actual, like, if it was up to me, honestly, if I won $300 million in the lottery or something like that, I would give every snake away I had. I wouldn't sell one of them because, to be honest with you, like, I don't get any. There's some people, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not discouraging or disparaging anybody from this. There are some people that love that part of the business. They love the sales side. They love that, like, finishing the deal. That is something I've never liked. I always looked at selling snakes was a means to an end. It paid the bills so that I can keep doing what I did. But thankfully, Lori and the team that I have, Beth, Steph, Ashley, they're really the people that sell snakes now. Now, put them up against Nerd and Cabelica, I give our team a pretty good chance of winning. That's for sure. But if you put me up against them, I'd probably lose terribly, because that's the other thing is, like, this is the truth. I would talk more people out of buying snakes than I did sell snakes, because if I felt like for some reason it wasn't the right snake for them, no matter how much money it was, I would kind of say, this just isn't right. I don't think you should do this, you know? So I probably lost more sales than I gained when I was involved. So now I'm out of the game. I don't, it's like, people ask me all the time, like, what is this worth? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't follow the market. I don't follow anything. I follow what's cool. I like see an animal. I'm like, wow, that's cool. But if you said, like, how much is a Pompeii go for? I'd have no clue. No idea. No, I mean, I don't know. It's a 5,000 to 10,000 to 20,000. I don't know. But my team would know. But I like the fact that now I can just work with the animals, breed the animals, hatch the animals, play with the animals, but they take care of everything else. The other thing is, of course, is that if I was involved in the sales side, again, I would be keeping a lot more snakes. Now it's like I put stuff on the shelf and Lori just sells it, and I don't even get a chance to keep it.
Now, I got to ask you this, because I've always wondered, even since before I got into the hobby, and if I had the money, I'd get you a diamond chain, and the pendant would be TNK. Do you know what that stands for?
No, what is it?
The chain would stand for it, and I'd send it to you if I had the money. The chain would stand for it. Thumbnail King.
Well, listen, I think it's funny that people don't like clickbaity titles and thumbnails when that's what YouTube is about. You know what I mean? Like when you really look at, PewDiePie, for instance, Felix is the largest personal subscribe channel, right? And he will tell you that he's the best clickbaiter on the planet. He's like, nobody clickbaits better than me. David Dobrik, literally his brand was clickbait. I mean, his merch brand is called Clickbait. That's what his brand is. So, like, real YouTubers, see, and there's two different things. There's clickbait where you're lying to people, and there's clickbaits where you're enticing people to watch but telling the truth about a title, right? If I say, like I had this happen several months ago. I got bit in the face by a snake, right? And the title was "Bit in the Face by a Snake." And someone's like, "I hate that you clickbait." And I'm like, but I got bit in the face by a snake. like what's clickbait about that? Like, it happened, And so yes, we're gonna. You're right. We're gonna try to sensationalize titles. We're gonna try to sensationalize thumbnails without hopefully disparaging the hobby, and but also trying to get eyeballs. And this is the thing I've said. You can have the best message in the world, and if no one watches, what good is that message? Right? So it's always about audience, and if you can, and this is why, I know, like, Jay Brewer gets some heat about videos and stuff like this. And I always I defend him often, because I say, Yeah. So as a matter of fact, ironically enough, he just had a video that did about 600,000 views this week that was called "Bit in the Face by a Python." So ironically enough, but the fact is that if those 600,000 people click on his video, but then he has a bunch of really good content in not only maybe that video, but also other videos that people come back for, he's doing good for the hobby. Right? It's not like every video he puts out is like, the snakes are mean, they're going to kill me, I'm going to die. You know, it's not that at all. It's like both myself and Jay, who probably get, you know, as many views as anyone else in the reptile hobby. You know, most of our message is extremely positive and pro reptile, but we do have that occasional sensationalism to draw people in because, again, we both believe in our message so much of love and of reptiles that we want to reach people. And there's nothing wrong with having a channel that doesn't want to do that, you know, to having a channel that is very just educational, that doesn't reach people. And then you have the, you know, you do have the outliers, you know. Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles is a great example of an outlier. I think Camp Kennan is really kind of a good example of an outlier. A few other channels are like that where they don't do a tremendous amount of sensationalism. Every now and then they'll have a title that's a little clickbaity, like Kennan had the, you know, that his monitor froze to death, but it actually didn't freeze to death. It was just in hibernation. And like every now and then, you know, Wiccans will put out a video where it's like got my name in the title or something like that. You know, so like, I mean, they do a little bit, but for the most part, their content is very, very good. You know, it's great content. Number one, love their content, and it's very like wholesome. You know,
right?
Don't really clickbait a lot and sensationalize a lot, and they work, and it works for them. But most of the time, it doesn't work.
Right.
Most of the time, if you're not trying to really push it and get people's eyeballs, because, you know, this is what I've always said, is that, you know, like a movie has a trailer, a TV show has a commercial about the TV show being on. All we have as YouTubers is a thumbnail and a title. That's it. That's all we've got. You know, and even when you look at the head engineers for YouTube, they will tell you that the two most important things of any video is not content, it's not quality of content, it's title and thumbnail. Period. That's what they'll tell you. YouTube themselves will tell you that. So I find it interesting that people think that it's wrong to want to try to draw people to content with so I would wear the thumbnail king you know, necklace with pride. Yeah.
I love that, and if I had the money, I'd send it to you now. I need a thumbnail for my YouTube podcast.
Yeah.
Can we do one, and I do it with you?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
On the count of 1, 2, 3.
We're all the same thing. We're right on the same path. We got it.
I love that. I love that. Now, this is a hot seat question, and you're gonna have to think about this one.
Let's go.
Now, if you didn't have the Reptarium,
yeah,
and there was no other jobs on earth, you have to pick one of these, and you were working somewhere,
yep,
where would you work and why? And I'm gonna give you the choices.
All right.
Nerd, with Brewer at his shop, Gatorland, or with Will Nace at his zoo he's making.
Well, first off, I love all those guys, but it would be Gatorland. Yeah, hands down Gatorland. You know, I mean, I love Will, I love Kevin, and I love Jay, but hands down Gatorland. I think it's one of the most magical places on the planet. So Gatorland would be my choice. I mean, without even thinking about it, would be. I would work there right now. Actually, I would leave the Reptarium to go work at Gatorland. That's how much I love Gatorland.
I love that answer, and I've had Savannah on. She is so nice.
I love Savannah. She's amazing.
Okay, now we were talking about your favorite part of the Reptarium. You don't like sales. What's your favorite part of the Reptarium? Is it sales? Is it tours? Is it the education side? Is it the part of just holding? What's your favorite part of your Reptarium?
I think that first would be the educational side, you know, for sure. Number one would be education. So when we have, whether it is a tour, an event, or even when we're open to the public, seeing people's reactions and faces and seeing them light up and be able to teach people that reptiles are different. I always tell my crew and everyone that what my goal is that almost anyone, with the exception of people that have been through them multiple times, which happens a lot, if you're a first-time Reptarium person, you don't even know much about reptiles, I want you to have a different opinion of reptiles when you leave that building, right? From the time you walk in till the time you leave, we want you to have a completely different opinion of what a reptile is. And that's my biggest goal. And so the educational side. And then I think secondly would be the behavior side, you know, learning how smart some of these animals are and how, learning their personalities and being able to train them to do things. I really believe that we're just now touching on the beginnings of what a reptile could be trained to do. I think a reptile can be trained to do a lot more than we even do with them. And we do a lot. I mean, we do a lot of target training, a lot of ball training. We do a lot of, you know, calls, clicker trains, you know, all kinds of different stuff. But I think we can do more, and I think we will do more. And I think that, you know, the future is bright with that. So behavior is a big part, but education one, behavior two.
I love that. I love that answer. Now, and you might be mad at Lori for this, but I got to ask you this. Talk to me about the current relationship you have with Drogo the sloth right now.
Yeah, you know, it's a bummer. Listen, you know, throughout my life, I've always had connection with animals. You know what I mean? Like I've just, you know, almost every animal I've ever worked with is just been a bond, immediate bond, you know? And so Drogo is definitely the exception to that. You know, Drogo loves Lori. Drogo loves Jay the edutainer. I mean, absolutely loves Jay the edutainer. So first, Drogo, you know, I think still loves, you know, well, not sure. I know Drogo loves Jay the edutainer more than anybody. And then Lori'd be second. And I'm probably somewhere way down that list. You know, like, there's probably 10 people until it gets me. When I walk into Drogo's enclosure and just he hears my voice, he starts to get upset. And it bums me out because I'm an animal lover and I want every animal that I have to love me to death. But I also realize that, you know, the way I would endear myself to Drogo is to spend the time with Drogo. And I just don't have the time it needs. A mammal's a different animal than a reptile. You need a tremendous amount of time and energy put into that animal in order for it to love you the way it loves Jay. And that's what Jay does. Jay spends a lot of time, and Lori does too. Lori goes in there and talks to it and pets it and gives it treats and all that other stuff. For me, I just don't have the hours in the day. I have to delegate. And so I'm very, very happy, to be honest with you. I love the fact that Drogo loves Jay and Lori, but he definitely doesn't love me.
Well, I apologize. I wasn't trying to bum you out. My bad.
No, you don't have to bum me out. That's a reality. I mean, it's not. Trust me, I wish it wasn't the case, but and I know how I could remedy it if I had more hours to spend with them, but I don't. And that's okay because I've got my Bella and I've got Elvis and I've got Diddy and Dixie and I've got all my other animals that love me.
Right. Now, I apologize for keeping you over. I know I didn't want to keep you too long because I know you're busy. Now, I got to ask you this because I asked your wife. And I don't know if she told you the answer, but I'll tell you the answer afterwards. Actually, you got to go watch it and see. But I want to know your answer.
Yep.
Now, I feel like you're a legend in the game, you know, the king of the hobby. I feel like, you know, you're leaving your mark on the industry, if you will. And I feel like when you're gone, you know, Lord forbid something happens to you. But when they make the Reptarium biography or the movie, you know, who's playing Brian Barczyk and Lori Barczyk in the Barczyk movie?
I think it would be, I mean, my wish would be, you know, probably, you know, George Clooney for me and Julia Roberts for Lori.
Ooh, George Clooney and Julia Roberts.
Yeah, that's what I'd want. That's the pair I'd want. Yeah.
Now, I'd watch that.
Yeah, see that'd be good because George Clooney is a good-looking man, you know, and Julia Roberts, Lori's beautiful and she's beautiful, so it'd be perfect.
I will love. I hope they do that. When you go, if I'm still here, I'm gonna say, hey, this is what I need to do. Make a movie about Brian and Lori.
Yeah, that's it. Let's hope we could do that. I would pass away just to watch that movie.
Now, I feel like you give some of the best advice in your videos. What's some advice you can give for somebody just getting into the hobby?
I think that, you know, I always give the same advice when I get asked this question by anybody, even when I'm at the Reptarium or on the phone or whatever it is. You know, be really passionate, really love it. Don't ever do it for the money. Don't chase anything at all. Don't chase money. Don't chase projects. Don't work with animals that you don't want to work with because you think it's financially the best decision. You know, it really is. I know this is really cliche, but you know, when they talk about, you know, it's not the destination, it's the journey. I think that's really the case, especially with animals. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it's never going to work out well, you know. But if you do it for the right reasons and you're doing it because you love the animals, it's going to be great, even if it doesn't work out. You know, even if you don't get to where you want to be, the experience and that journey is going to be so worth it. And I always say, you know, always work with the stuff that you're going to be so excited to see every day. You know, like I go to work every single day and I can't wait to see all these animals. Like I can't wait. I mean, like literally I walk in the door first thing, and my crew, I guess this is another piece of advice I don't normally tell people, but maybe this just came up. It's like something I do and my crew probably sees this happens. Like the first thing I do when I walk into my animal rooms is I look at everything. You know, I don't just look like, oh, I got to see what Bella's doing. I look at every animal that I walk past and I assess every animal. Look how it's laying on a rock. Look where it's at in the heat pad. Does it look dehydrated? Does it look this? Is this blah, blah. Because if you aren't, and the same thing goes if you've got a bunch of racks, you know, as you're walking, just open up the drawers, you know what I mean? Just look at your animals every day, because if it's like, oh, well, Tuesday is cleaning day, well, maybe Wednesday the cage got dirty, you know, don't leave it till next Tuesday, look at it every single day. And so that's another piece of advice if you want to be successful with animals is the more time you spend getting to know each individual animal. It's like when I'm breeding ball pythons or breeding any snakes. I know the animals, each individual, even though I'm breeding hundreds of them, I know each individual animal so much, I know how they act. And so if I open up that enclosure and they act different, I know something is going on. Is it a follicle growth? Is it an ovulation? Is it, you know, getting ready to lay? Or is there something else wrong that I'm like, oh, wait a second, I've got to take a look. Something's going on here. And so, you're never going to spend too much time. The more time you spend, the better.
I love that. I love that. Now, I'm going to say a number, and I want you to say it back with me, okay? Because it's going to lead into my next question.
You got it.
500 million.
500 million.
Do you know why I'm telling you that number?
Would that be about the amount of views I have on the vlog channel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Say this again. 500 million.
Yeah, it's wild. You know, I think combined between the two channels, we're at about 900 million people views. So we're coming up on 1 billion views on the two channels. That's crazy. It's crazy. It's ridiculous to think that.
Now I'm gonna say this one more time, then I'm gonna ask my question. Because to me, to be a small YouTuber, and I'm getting ready to crack 90,000 views, almost 100. That I love that. I'm excited.
That's amazing.
But 500 million? That's insane. Now, I say that to say, can you give me some small YouTuber advice or some YouTuber advice for everybody that's trying to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, yeah, it is crazy. It's insanity to think that that many views for something we've done. It's wild, and again, very humbling. So the advice is, so there's, I always say 3 C's in success on YouTube, right? The 3 C's. That's content, collaboration, and consistency. If you follow those 3 C's, you're going to do really well. Now, then you can get into the intricacies of the 3 C's. You know, again, you want a catchy thumbnail, a catchy title. You want, without lying, you never want to lie to your audience. You know, you want to just, you know, get a catchy thumbnail, catchy title. You want to try to always have the watch time. You want to be between 6 and 9 minutes on your videos. Okay. Now, essentially, most videos, what they call AVDs, average view durations, are 50 to, you know, a good channel is doing 50+%. Most channels don't do 50%. We usually are at about 60-65% AVDs, average view durations, meaning that if I want to hit 9 minutes, I have to have a 14-minute video. Right now, you really don't want to be much over 9. Some people would be like, oh, well, what if I'm 20 minutes? You know, I might be, to be honest with you, that's not always good either, you know, from the YouTube algorithmic standpoint. So 6 to 9 minutes is the sweet spot. You want your average view duration.
Oh no, did we lose him? Can y'all still see me? I'm sure he'll come back.
Hear you and
oh, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Cool,
Let's just wait till you come back.
No problem. Are you back?
There you are. I see you.
All right, cool, cool. All right, good. So, so you want your click-through rate to be above 10%. Okay, so that means that, you know, the people that see your thumbnail, more than 10% of them click on the video. So if your click-through rate's above 10%, your average view duration's above 50%, your view time is 6 to 9 minutes, you're going to be successful.
Man, I'm telling you this. I'm gonna screen record this and watch this and practice this. Now, I'm gonna go into the next question. And I'm gonna say this to say about you now. There's certain things famous people can't do. Now, what I mean is, if Drake was to walk inside Kmart, he would be swarmed.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're on that level in the reptile world. And I feel like, what are some things that you miss doing that you can't do anymore because you would just be swarmed? Maybe it's like a reptile expo. Maybe it's just going to a pet shop. What's some of the things that you're too big to do and you miss right now?
I don't know that I would ever say I'm too big to do anything. And I think that, you know, I'm one of those guys that, so like, you know, I'm almost in that perfect situation where, like, when I go out, most times somebody recognizes me on, you know, if I go out to dinner or something like that, but I'm not swarmed. Right. So it's like, it's nice, like, that someone at Subway would be like, oh my God, I watch your videos. But it's not like, you know, and I'll give you an example. I've known a couple, you know, I know a lot of famous people, and I hang out with a lot of famous people, and like, it does escalate quickly. Right. So if all of a sudden you're out with them and 2 people show up and go, oh my God, that's so, and then next thing you know, there's 100 people. And then it's like, you got to bounce, you know, you got to be out of there. Thankfully, I'm not that way. You know, certainly going to reptile expos is not what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you know, just walking around table to table doesn't happen when I go to a reptile expo. You know, it's like, I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Well, a couple of years ago, I was in South Africa at an expo, and I made it about 3 tables into the show, and I never made it past the 3rd table. And that was it. That I was stuck in one spot for 6 hours. I mean, literally one spot for 6 hours. I couldn't leave, you know? But that's not a, I mean, yeah. And by the way, I did end up seeing the expo the following morning before it opened. I walked around before this opened, and I talked to all the vendors, and it was a really great time. My friend Heidi from, SOS Reptiles, or SOS Reptile Expo is in Johannesburg, is great. As a matter of fact, I can't wait to get back there next year when things are normal again. They just had their expo a few weeks back in Joburg, and it went real well. But it's a great place. But my point is that, you know, reptile expos are different, but I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at it as a great thing, and I look at it as a blessing. And I never, like, okay, I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine. I won't name him because he would be mad at me if I did. But he's a TV celebrity that has had a lot of success. And so we went out one night. He came to visit before COVID, and stayed with us for a couple of days. And we went out to dinner one night, and sure enough, everyone in the place came over and took a picture. The chef came out of the back kitchen, all the kitchen crew came out, took pictures. We then went to Walmart after, and everyone in Walmart we walked past stopped him and took pictures and stuff like that. And he, and we get back to the house, and he was very gracious to everybody, you know, took pictures, to talk to everyone. It's really beautiful. And we got back to the house, and he was like, yeah, you know, it just kind of sucks that, you know, I just can't go out and do things. And I said, stop it right there. Stop. I said, I never want to hear you bitch about this, because 10 years ago, you would have begged to be in this position. You knew what you signed up for. You should shut your mouth and enjoy this ride. And that's really what it is. So, you know, I think, let me make sure I get the saying right. They say there's 2, hang on a second. I got to think about this for a second. All right. So they say there's 2, the 2 most terrifying things to a celebrity is when they leave the house and no one recognizes them, and then they get famous, and then the next thing that's scary is when they leave their house and no one recognizes them again. So you know, like, you know, in the beginning, no one knows you. And then when you become very popular, everyone knows you. And then when you, on the other side of it, no one knows you again. And those are equally as terrifying. But that being said, you know, like, I remember being at an expo that Leonardo DiCaprio visited. And like that's prison, right? That's prison. That's not life. So like I'm not that, you know, and I never will be that, you know. Like you don't want to be Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio. You didn't want to be Michael Jackson. You didn't want, you know what I mean? You don't want to be Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? Like there's like a level of like celebrity that is like pleasant, that like you get recognized, but it's pleasant. And then there's a like David Dobrik was a perfect example. When I first started working with David Dobrik on YouTube, he was pretty popular, but not like we'd go out to dinner and we'd hang out and people would come up and stuff like that. But at the end, before he had his issues, like he couldn't do anything. Like he couldn't go to a mall without being mobbed. And that's a YouTuber. So it's almost like, you know, it went from like being like, great, people are recognizing me, people love me, smiling, happy, to all of a sudden like, my gosh, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. I'm now living in a prison in life because I can't even go outside. Thankfully, that's not me. And I can't ever foresee myself having that type of level of success. I mean, I'm very, very lucky to be exactly where I am, where I like people recognize me and I love every single interaction I have, but I can still do my thing and I'm not getting mobbed.
I love that answer, man. You just so down to earth and humble, man. You're a legend in the game.
Well, thank you so much. It means the world to me, man.
Now, Lori has confirmed this in one of my other podcasts because I asked her, I said, has he ever snuck a snake past you? What I mean is, has he ever, you know, he said, baby, I really want to get this snake and it's only $1,000. And then you look at the invoice and it was really $5,000. And she said, yes, this happened before plenty of times. Talk to me about a time where you had to have a snake and you might have lied about the price or snuck it past Lori.
I mean, this has happened, you know, thousands of times. I don't know that I could even quantify a one time. You know, I will say this, that I've gotten much better about it, you know, and what I mean by that is that the last snake I brought in without her permission, that she wasn't happy about was Al Machino, or Machino reticulated python. I didn't tell her about it, and Lori is she knows, like she's got that mom thing going on, right? Where like, you know, you can't get anything by her, right? You know what I mean? So like I've snuck in, I've told her different prices 1,000 times, every time I've gotten caught, every time. You know, there's never a time I don't get caught. So now I will really seriously, since Al Machino, which was 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I really have been really good about like not, you know, I always pass it by her. And quite frankly, I mean, like I really want a pied retic, like a high white pied retic. And but she's adamantly opposed to it, and I won't get one. I mean, I really won't. So I've gotten better as my age is going on at being less dishonest about what I'm bringing in. You know, I mean, I always make sure that she approves things before, because it's only fair to her. You know, it really is.
I love that answer, man. I just had to ask because it was so funny.
Oh, it's true. It's true. Lots of times, you know, lots of times. It's that old saying, right? Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Now, and I tell people this story, and I hope Miguel don't kill me for it. I had always evolving pythons up here, and I asked him a question. I said, "Give me a crazy fan story," and he told me one time he was at an expo. And a guy came up to him and he was like, "Hey, you know, you're amazing at what you do. Let's go throw back a couple beers." And Miguel was like, shit, yeah, I'm down. Let's go do it. So him and the fan went and threw some beers back. And I guess after they got done with the beer, the fan looked at him and was like, "Hey, you know, we had a good time drinking these beers. You want to go back up to the room?" And Miguel said, "Whoa, this ain't that kind of party." And I hope you don't kill me for telling that story, but it's so funny. I use that to lead into the question of saying, man, give me, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but give me a crazy fan story that you remember.
You know, I again, you know, that I've never had that happen. But of course, I don't drink beer, so maybe that's why I don't drink. I don't drink or do drugs. So I don't party. But you know, I mean, I think that the one story that kind of I always laughed about was I was at LAX, you know, airport, and I was actually at a urinal peeing. and the guy next to me was like, "Holy shit, you're Brian Barczyk," and I was peeing, you know, I was literally peeing. And he's like, "You're Brian Barczyk," and I was like, "Yeah, you know," and I'm peeing. I'm like, "Yeah, how are you?" You know, and he's like, "Hey, do you mind if we take a picture?" And I go, and I remember just looking and go, "Do you mind if I get done peeing first?" You know, and so we did walk out of the bathroom and took a picture outside, you know, the bathroom together. But that was kind of a funny one. And you know, you do have, you know, I mean, I think the ones that really touch you are, and it's touching, it really is. I mean, and it never gets old. No matter, every time someone comes up to you and recognizes you, to me, it never gets old, ever, you know. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that I missed during COVID was, like, number one, I didn't go anywhere. And number two, when I did go somewhere, I had a mask on typically. And so it was weird to never meet anybody, you know. I mean, for a long time, like not having anybody recognize you is kind of weird. But you know, when in particular, when like someone's really emotional when they meet you, that's always really touching, you know, and that happens, you know, relatively frequently, where someone just really like, and that just means that, you know, it's awesome that you're touching someone's life, you know what I mean? And so oftentimes I get emotional when they get emotional, because it's emotional for me to see them emotional. But it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing. And anyone that doesn't take that for granted. I remember, I'll tell you a real quick story. I was on, you know, Jack Hanna. Oh, there goes my dog.
I do.
So Jack Hanna, obviously Jungle Jack Hanna. Unfortunately, his health isn't doing that well right now. But you know, he's a guy that I've always loved to death. And when he came to this area, I would be his reptile guy when he did shows, when he did like auditorium shows. I would bring some reptiles. I would talk about reptiles on stage, and we're you know, Jungle Jack and we were friends. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of me and in my family in an adult cheetah on my wall right in the other room. And I remember doing a show at a place called the Macomb Center for Performing Arts, and it was 3 shows, like hour and a half long show. Then there was like an hour in between, an hour and a half, then an hour between, an hour and a half, and myself and the rest of the animal keepers, once the show was over, we were just kind of hanging out backstage, making sure the animals got water, whatever the case may be, because we had mammals there and all that other stuff too. And Jack was just like, in between shows, he was out front signing autographs and taking pictures the entire hour. And so in between, you know, we're eating some snacks, and it was catered. So like we have catered sandwiches and stuff like that. Jack's gone, man. He's out meeting people the whole hour. And so at the very end of the night, which is now, you figure it was 4.5 hours of shows and then 2 hours. So 6.5 hours straight of like, this guy was on, man. I mean, he was on the stage and then meeting people from the time, you know, till the next show. And I remember afterwards he came back and we were having dinner and we're sitting around, and I told him, I said, Jack, you know, I said, it's crazy that, you know, you like didn't sit down for 6.5 hours and you just like met everyone out there, you know, and this really impacted me, because this was early on in my YouTube career. And he said, Brian, he said, what you have to understand is that every single person that came to this place is why I am who I am. And he said, without each one of those people, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I have to show them appreciation. And that really stuck with me. And I think I've held on. Again, back then I never knew that you know, we'd have a 500 million views on YouTube. But I remember that day very well, and I remember what he said, and I've taken that to heart ever since. And you know, listen, the Reptarium wouldn't be open if it wasn't for that 500 million views and the 3 million people that hit the subscription button, and I wouldn't be able to live my dreams if it wasn't for those people. And
right.
And so I really feel I owe them everything I can give them. Every single thing I can give them, I owe them. And I'll try to do that till my dying breath.
Man, that's so just amazing, just to listen to you and hear your stories, man. I appreciate you, man. Now, my friend Kurtwood had a question. He wanted to know, are you going to I can't pronounce it, Sandberg show?
Yeah, Schaumburg. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I'm on the fence. I want to go because I miss, being normal, and I miss being around people. It's about a 5-hour drive, which isn't that terribly bad. I'm good friends with the promoters, Brian and Bob. I want to support everybody. I am very, very busy. So I would say right now, if I were going to quantify, I would say there's a 65% chance I'll go and a 35% chance I won't go. And that's this weekend, by the way. It's this coming up weekend.
All right, well, there you go, Kurtwood. That's your answer, brother. And I know I don't want to go too long. I got a couple more questions.
Sure, go ahead, man.
And because I know you're home with your wife now,
Okay.
with having all the animals you have, tell me what's the worst bite you ever took?
Well, I always say that so I've been very lucky. Almost 35 years professionally working with animals. I've never been to a hospital for any bite of any sort, anything, not one injury. But I think the most painful bite that I ever had was I was in Ipswich, Queensland, Australia. I was at a friend of mine, Troy and Denver's, the K brothers down in Ipswich. And it was funny. I got bit a bunch of times that day, but in particular, they had a good like 9.5 foot girthy, black-headed python. And it seemed like every snake they took out, they were like, "Oh, this is super tame," and they all were biting me. And this thing came out and I was like playing with it. I was so impressed, this giant black-headed python, and from here I am in Australia. I love this animal. At the time, I now have 4 or 5 blackheads. I have 4 blackheads. But at the time I never had worked with blackheads. And so I was really, and it reached up and it just grabbed my arm right here. Right here, it grabbed my arm and it literally hung on. And if you've ever been bitten by an Aspidites, which is a Walmart blackhead, very powerful jaws. Like most snakes don't have a lot of bite force. The teeth might be big, but their bite force isn't big. Indigo snakes, Walmart and blackhead pythons, lots of bite force. Bull snakes have a pretty good bite force as well. So I'm assuming those are the animals that when they bite something, they have to hang on. They're not using their teeth to hang on. They're using their jaw power to hang on because they have very, very small teeth compared to a lot of big pythons. But they have really, really strong jaw and power. And I'm telling you what, it hurt bad. And it hung on and hung on and hung on and would not let go, And I'd say, and they took out, the alcohol thing, mouthwash, they were spraying it, they were doing everything. And this thing's just biting and biting. And I remember, it felt like an eternity, but it was probably 4 or 5 minutes. And it hurt so bad at one point, I just literally took it and just kind of ripped it off my arm. I could just hear the ripping of my skin but it just hurt so bad because that's a very tender spot. I mean, when I got this tattoo, it was one of the most painful tattoos I had on my arm. It's the same exact spot, but now you've got this animal hanging on. So although it wasn't a giant snake, I've been bit by 18-foot pythons. I've been bit by all kinds of stuff. Obviously salt, grabbed my finger and hung on for 8 minutes and that was very painful, but still that blackhead python, I remember being kind of the most painful experience I ever had with a bite. Again, it bruised up really bad. Nothing, no problem, no stitches, no anything else like that. But definitely painful. But like I said, very lucky that I've never had any hospitalization or even a trip to a hospital by an animal. Which is crazy when you think about it, because I've dealt, obviously, filming Venom Hunters for Discovery Channel. I spent the whole month walking around, that and catching deadly snakes. And I lost you.
I'm here. I lost signal. Sorry.
I'm not here a second. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost signal.
No, but you figure all the deadly snakes I've dealt with around the world and crocodilians, catching big Nile crocodiles in the wild. And, it's crazy that I haven't been ever hurt. I'm really fortunate.
Okay. Now, I love that. Now, I have 2 more questions, and then I'll let you get back to, the family time. Now, if you could have any celebrity in the world, which you can, right now, who would you want to visit the Reptarium? Anybody?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one that I don't think ever could happen, and it would be Betty White. Betty White would be my person, and then probably second beyond Betty White would be David Attenborough. Those 2 would be, and they're both in their 90s, right? I think Betty White's 94 or something like that, and I think David Attenborough's 93. So I don't know that either one of those people ever come to the Reptarium, but those are my 2 like bucket list people. I mean, there's a lot of people on my bucket list to eventually meet, but those two are getting up in the age, and I don't have that much time left. So, and you know, both obviously are huge animal lovers. You know, Betty White's a huge reptile lover. She always has been. As a matter of fact, I had a friend of mine. Oops. Some people coming down the street here. My dog's going crazy. But we had a good friend of mine, Mike. Well, friend that passed away a few years back. Guy named Mike Dees. He was the director of the LA Zoo. Was really good friends with Betty, because Betty has been a big supporter of the LA Zoo for 50 years. And like I said, she loves reptiles. She loves animals, and she did a lot for the LA Zoo. So when Mike was alive, he actually had talked with Betty about getting together with me at some point. And she, of course, she got back and just said, have a really hectic schedule. This is when she was in her mid 80s, you know, she's like, very hectic schedule, but as soon as I have some time, I'd love to meet him, you know? And then unfortunately, Mike passed away with cancer. And that was the end of that. I don't have any ties with Betty White beyond that. But she's always just been an inspiration, because although she's a obviously 90-something-year-old lady now, at one point she was such a big Hollywood she still is a huge Hollywood star, right? Even at 90-something. And the fact that she would love reptiles openly, even back 50 years ago, was something that I always loved. I just have loved her my whole life. And so as Mary, I've got a bearded dragon named Betty White. So yeah. And then I hope I can meet David Attenborough, you know, sometime. And I think that could happen. I have a lot of, you know, of course, the whole 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon thing, right? You know, I've got probably, you know, 8 different ways to get to David Attenborough, and one of these days, one of them is going to work out. And it's like I've told almost every single person that knows David that I know. I said, when he has a day, because he's over in London, I said, I don't care what, I will jump on a plane tomorrow and be there. You know, you just tell me and I will be there. So those are my 2 big bucket lists.
Hey, and it's gonna I see it happening before you leave. Now,
I hope so.
This is the last question, and it's strictly from me. And even if it's not the truth, just a lie.
Yep, you got it. Yeah.
Now, I'm just kidding, but now I'm tatted up, and you are too. You have quite a bit of tattoos.
I do.
Now, I love everybody in the hobby, but everybody knows me. You're one of my favorites. Tyler Nolan is one of my favorites. Tyler Nolan is a world-renowned tattoo artist. Yeah. And I'm curious, have you ever got a tattoo from Tyler Nolan?
I haven't actually. And I would certainly consider it, because I like his work. I think he's a great guy. As a matter of fact, I kind of first became aware of Tyler on Ink Master. I didn't know he was a reptile guy. I had no idea he was a reptile guy. And I saw him on Ink Master, and I followed along his journey and what I think he calls Stink Master now, because it's certainly reality TV. But yeah, I've always loved Tyler. I think he's a great guy. He was supposed to be up last year, just before, like literally as COVID hit. We had plane tickets and everything bought. And but we stay in communication now. We'll get together soon. As a matter of fact, I'll be down in Florida next month, and I hope I'll get a chance to meet up with Tyler. Will we have time for ink? I don't know. You know, if we do, hey, I'd love to. Because so basically, you know, my arms are done by a guy named Bob Tyrell, and my chest as well. And Bob is definitely world famous black and gray guy, probably top 3 in the world for black and gray. But now that I'm finishing up that project with my arms and chest, I want to start, you know, like my leg has Bella on it from a different artist. I want to start what they call tattoo collecting, which is, you know, I want to just collect from famous artists, you know, like one tattoo, just give me one tattoo, famous artist. And I want to try to get the rest of my body done all in animals, but from famous. And I would consider Tyler a famous artist, so I would definitely get ink from him.
Man, that would be awesome. I would love to see that before I leave. I would love to see two of my favorite content creators get together. I'd be just, my mind would be.
Yeah, well, we'll be getting together for animals no matter what. But and yeah, I'd love to get some ink done by it. If he has the time, I'll do it for sure.
Well, Mr. Barczyk, man, I want to tell you I appreciate everybody watching. We all appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, man. Thank you.
No, thank you, dude. You keep up the good work. I'm so glad it finally worked out. I'm always here if you ever need anything, man.
I appreciate that, man. Before we leave, can we hit him with a dab like this? There it is. We just that. We out of here. Mr. Barczyk, don't leave. I want to go backstage and thank you personally. I'm getting ready to, before we leave, I always do shout outs because I'm in a great reptile community.
Yeah.
While you're watching, everybody, make sure you check out Joe Chandler. Super good guy. He makes venom-proof cages, some of the best cages out there. First and foremost, shout out to Ball Python Love, man. That's my brother. I'll make sure y'all check him out. Kurtwood, My Animal House, Iron Dog, holds Ways Exotics, Reptile Feedings, Venom Wonderful, Wolf, Reese's Pythons, holds Ways Exotics, Lynn Loves Pythons, Carachet, Nikki. Please, if you can, reach out to Fitz Family Constrictors. He's doing a raffle for Petals and Scales. They lost a lot of their snakes and they're trying to rebuild. So make sure y'all hit up Fitz Family Constrictors and just help him out. Dragon Whisperer, Solo, Butterfly, Not Lou, OSMR, KY, Moto Danger Zone, Celtic Balls, and last but not least, baby, I love you. Thank you for supporting me. I appreciate it. We out of here, man. I'm getting ready to play us out. I'm going to take us backstage right quick.
You got it.
All right. Remove from stream.